Hey, what's up, Math 8? Mr. Bainey here, and we're going to take a look at Lesson 8.3, Solving Systems by Elimination. We've already looked at solving systems of equations using two other methods. In 8.1, we did solving systems by graphing, and then we did substitution in 8.2. So this is our third and actually our final method. We're going to take a closer look at this method over a couple of lessons. So we're just going to kind of keep it basic today. I do have some steps for you, steps 1, 2, and 3, as you can see at the top. And we take our two equations, right? Remember, we're trying to solve for x and y. We want to add or subtract the equations together, and that's going to eliminate one of the variables or make a zero. So when we say eliminate, we're making a zero. What's left over is an equation that we'll be able to solve for one of the variables, the one that's left over, right? The one we didn't make a zero with. And step number 3 is to substitute that value that we got into either the original equation, into either original equation, so we pick which one, to find the value of the variable that we made a zero with at the very beginning. Okay, so as always, going to show you how this works and then going to give you a chance to try it out for yourself. So let's look at example number 1. Now we got x plus y equals -1 and x minus y equals 7. So if you recall from the previous two lessons, I could ask you to graph both of these, right? They would intersect and you would get an answer. I could ask you to solve this using substitution. So you would need an x equals something or a y equals something, and then you could use that method to get your answer. So in the elimination method, all we're going to do is we're going to add these equations. And actually what I like to do, I don't like to just add like that. I like to put a plus sign in between each of these terms because we do want to make sure they're like terms and that we can actually add them together. If you want to know why we're allowed to do this, I can show you a lot more in depth if you just ask me. But long story short, just the left side is equal to the right side already, even though they look different. So we're still keeping it balanced by adding one side to, or adding the left side to the left and the right side to the right. So we have x plus x. That's going to give us 2x. And then we have y plus -y. So this whole thing that I'm circling is a 0. Okay, a y and a -y added together is 0. You see I have this equal sign right after that. -1 plus 7 gives us 6. Okay, now this becomes a super easy one-step equation for us to solve. All that we got left to do is to divide by 2, and x is 3. Okay, remember that we only are halfway done. This is 3 comma something. So we got to figure out what y is. And I could use either the first or the second equation. I'm going to choose to use let's do the first one. So x plus y equals -1 is my first equation. I know x is 3. So 3, oh, I forgot the -1, I'm sorry. X plus y equals -1. So 3 plus y equals -1. And if I subtract 3, whoops, subtract 3 on both sides to make that a 0, I get y is -4. And my final completed answer is 3 comma -4. Just to summarize this whole example number 1, we sort of have about as much work as we did when we did substitution, right? Substitution is specifically substituting some expression into the other equation. And then this elimination method is simply adding, and then later on we'll be subtracting the two equations together, left side with the left side and the right side with the right side. Okay, but we're still finding the x and the y, same kind of problem. So example number 2, we have 2x plus 2y equals -2, and 3x minus 2y equals 12. Okay, we're going to go and add straight down. And the first thing is 2x plus 3x. We can combine together to make 5x. 2y plus negative 2y. This whole thing right here is a 0. So that's gone. That equals negative 2 plus 12, which is 10. Okay, nice one-step equation for us to solve. Just divide both sides by 5, and x equals 2. Okay, so far, 2 comma something, right? 2 comma blank is going to be our point where they would intersect. Should we have graphed this? I don't know that one equation is easier than the other, so I'm just going to go and use the first one. We got 2x plus 2y equals negative 2. And then I know x equals 2. Got lots of 2's here. So I'm going to replace x with 2, and I get this. So 2 times 2 is 4. And you get that. Just copied everything else. Subtract 4 on both sides. And I get 2y equals negative 6. And finally, divide both sides by 2. And we get y equals negative 3. So our final answer as a point is 2 comma negative 3. And there you go. Go ahead and try your turn, the you try on the right. And I am going to have the answer pop up here in about 5 seconds. So please go and pause it, try it for a few minutes, and then unpause it to see the solution. Okay, in this problem, when you add these straight down, the variable that gets eliminated, that becomes a 0, is the 6x and this negative 6x when you add those together. So we get 12y equals 24, and we go through and solve that to get y. So now that I have my y, got to figure out what the x is. So I use the first equation. You could use the second one if you want, but they're bigger numbers, and they have that negative 6. So I used 6x plus 5y equals 4, and y is 2. Then I went through and I solved it, right? Solve it for x. So I do want to point out that I showed quite a bit of steps that you probably didn't need to do, like these first 2 lines right here. You don't have to always write those down. It's mainly just to show you which equation I used, just for your reference. But if you just started right here, all good. Write down your steps to get your answer there, just so I can see your thinking. And then our final answer here is negative 1 comma 2. Okay, and that's all there is to using addition when we want to eliminate a variable from the beginning. Okay, this is the elimination method, but using addition. So now we're going to go on to using subtraction for this elimination method. So let's go to our example number 3. Okay, I'll be working both of these out, and then you'll be trying that last one. So we're going to do subtraction, and you'll see why we need to use subtraction as opposed to addition. And that's what you need to think about when you do the homework, when you do any practice. Should I use addition or subtraction? Okay, so we're going to subtract here, and I want to put a subtraction sign in the middle here because it's going to help this make a little more sense. First, we got 6x minus 6x. Notice both are positive, and that's exactly why we need to subtract here. We got 6x minus 6x, and that gives us a 0, right? That's the whole purpose of elimination, is we want that 0. And next is negative 3y minus 8y. Feel free to use a calculator if you need to. Negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11. Then we got 6 minus negative 16 is going to give us a positive 22. Next thing we do is to divide by negative 11. and we get y is -2. Remember, because these problems are longer, you get +2 in here, which is the wrong answer. You're going to have the rest of the problems going to lead you to the wrong answer. Okay, so make sure that you have those signs correct. So that's our y value, which means we don't know our x value yet. That's our answer so far. We got to choose one of the equations. Again, don't know which one's really easier. It's all preference. I'm going to use the first one. Oops. 6x minus 3y equals 6. I'm going to change the y. So it's -3 times -2. 6. Okay, now treat this part right here as like a -3. This -3 as -3 times -2. And that becomes a +6. Okay, because you got the two negatives multiplying there. Then I'm going to subtract 6. And I get 6x equals 0. And dividing by 6, right, to get our answer. Got to divide by 6 to get the x by itself. 0 divided by 6 gives us 0. And you'll want to, if you want to question that, just because we don't get 0 too often, but you could always check the other equation, right? What I'm talking about is we use the first one way up here, but this second equation, you could try that out, change y to -2, and see what you get. Hopefully you get 0. Okay, example number 4. We got 4x plus 3y equals 19. 6x plus 3y equals 33. We're going to need to subtract here. If you can already see which one is going to become a 0. 4x minus 6y is going to give us a -2x. 3y minus 3y, those are both positive, but a positive 3y minus a positive 3y is 0. And that's going to equal 19 minus 33. That is -14. Again, use your calculator if you have to. Divide by -2. And that's going to give me a positive answer here. Sorry for my sloppiness. +7 is my x. Whoops. 7, comma, blank. Let's use the first equation again. 4x plus 3y equals 19. I'm going to replace the x with 7. So that means 4 times 7, which would be 28. I'm going to skip a step here and not show you that 7. That's equal to 19. Next, I'm going to subtract 28 on both sides. And I get 3y on the left. 19 minus 28 is a -9. Then I divide by 3. And y is -3. So final complete answer 7, -3. Forgot to box my example number 3 answer. But there you go. Remember, these still represent points, right? Our complete answer has an x value and a y value. And all that's left for you to do is, for the notes, is that your turn, just right next to it. Give that a try. I'm going to have the answers magically pop up. So go ahead and pause it. Answers will show in about 5 seconds. Check your answer here and go ahead and compare your work with mine. Of course, I left you the last one as the slightly tougher one with that fraction. If you got y equals 2, of course, you're going to get the wrong answer the rest of the way. So it does become 1/2 because of the 8 divided by 16. 0.5 is also okay to use. Luckily, this is one of the easiest fractions to use. So take a look at what I have right below that. If y is a half, I use the first equation, and 6 times y becomes 6 times a half. So half of 6 is how you would figure that out. Half of 6 is 3. And then just go through and finish that up. So don't get scared with these fractions. You shouldn't get too many fractions in these problems, but it will pop up from time to time. But use your calculator. You always have that available for you. And I went through, got x equals 7, so my point of intersection is 7, 1/2. That's going to do it for this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Hope it was helpful, and have a great day.